The first thing we need to do is secure Bunny. So here are our stitches on the blue knitting needle. So let's remove our knitting needle protector. The orange knitting needle is no longer required. Pick up your sewing needle. One end of the sewing needle has an eye. This is where we're going to thread our wool in. So get the end of your thread. You may need to wet the end a little bit and give it a little twist. It just kind of neatens it all together and makes it easy to thread through. There we go. And what we're going to do is gather up all these stitches and pull them tight like a drawstring bag. To do that, we're going to pop the sewing needle through the middle of each stitch. So in and pull it off the blue needle. Do a couple of those. Hold on to the remainder and pull through that last of the wool. Let's go again through the middle of the actual stitch itself. Pull it off the needle, through the middle, off the needle, a couple of those, and then pull all the wool through. And you can see this starting to gather up. We need to do this throughout all of the stitches, so I'll quickly do that now. So here we have it. This is the makings of Bunny's body. It's getting rather exciting now. What we need to do is do a little bit of stitching, so about here, and then we can stuff Bunny and then finish up. What I'm going to show you is what they call a mattress stitch. It just means that you can't see the seam of where we've stitched up, so there would be a seam along here, but with the mattress stitch it just marries up quite nicely and you can't really tell where that is. So that's the plan. What we will do is we'll look for this ridge here. So you've got an indent and then a ridge that pops out. If we go for that ridge there, so on this right side, pop your sewing needle underneath that stitch and pull it through. We need to match it up with the other ridge on the other side. So there's one there. And pull that through. What that's going to do is give us these nice rings that go completely around, so you shouldn't really be able to see the stitching underneath Bunny's body. Do that again. So here's the ridge, here's your indent, then a ridge. So under that stitch there, pull it through. We're not coming through all the way to the other side of Bunny on the inside, we're just keeping on the outside. Here's the indent, here's the ridge. Pick a stitch, there we go. So as I said before, we want to go so far along Bunny's body to get it going before we stuff it. So I'll do a couple more stitches and then we'll do that. Okay, let's stop there. So let's unwrap our stuffing bundle now. It looks like a lot of stuffing, but really it will be all needed. It really condenses down and compresses. So let's just take a handful at first and simply stuff it into Bunny. Another clump. You may feel that you don't want to use all of the stuffing, you don't want him looking too fat, which is fair enough. I think I'm going to stop there, so I'm going to move that to one side. So now we can see Bunny's starting to look rather cute quite plump. What we need to do now is finish stitching in the same way. So I'm going to carry on stitching up here, and I'll stop at the legs and I'll show you what to do to finish that bit there. Okay, so here he is. He's nearly done. He's nice and rounded. You might need to give him a little squeeze to kind of get the shape that you want for his body. That looks quite sweet. The last bit we need to do now is just stitch up here. It does get a little bit tricky, so just try and bear with it a little bit. So we need to try and continue in the same way. You can see that there's a little bit of a hole there, so let's pick up this stitch here to try and close that up. And just continue in the same way with the ridges. Marry them together. Every time you pull it tight, it just pulls these all together. Right, so pull these here. And we're just going to do some slightly smaller, spaced out stitches because we want this to come together nice and tightly. Don't worry too much about looking for the ridges here because this is not quite the same as the body. It's a little bit trickier. So we're just going to pick up what stitches look good on the edge. And remember just to give it a nice tug at the end of each stitch to pull it tight. Doesn't have to be every single stitch. It's not necessary, but you want them close enough so that the stuffing won't come out. If you've got any little brothers or sisters, we don't want them pulling the stuffing out and hurting themselves with it. We're right at the end here, so I'm going to pick that stitch there. Still got a bit of a hole, so let's go for that one there. And the last one here. So we need to tie off and stop all of this unravelling. And the best way I find to do that is to pick a stitch and go in and then pop out the other side of it, like so. So kind of like you've been doing. But don't pull it tight right away. Keep yourself with a loop. And we're going to put the sewing needle into that loop and pull it. So it's going to cause a little knot. If we do that twice on the same position, leave the loop, pop your sewing needle through the loop, pull it nice and tight, that will knot. And then lastly, a good idea is to actually go in through Bunny's body. It's okay, it won't hurt him. And pop out the other side, just so we've got a bit of leftover thread. And again, it's another precaution to stop it from unravelling. So we need to cut that there. There we go, there's Bunny. Don't worry about this hole here. We're actually going to have a pom-pom tail which covers that. So there's nothing to worry about there. And it should stand up. So the next video to watch is Bunny's pom-pom tail. And that's where I'm going to show you how to use your pom-pom maker guide and how to stitch it onto Bunny to complete him.